Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LSE Transfer Room live stream with myself, Kev, Anthony, and Hassan. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday evening. Very, very welcome to have you here with us. Before we get into anything, however, I just want to say a big, big thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed so far over the last number of years, number of months, whatever it may be. We just hit 10,000 subscribers this morning. We haven't really had a chance to note anything about it as of yet, but thank you guys so much for it. Jamie, thank you so much for wishing us well. Make sure that you do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll try and hit our next goal, whatever that may be. It hasn't even been discussed yet. Sure, we'll call it 11,000. Sure, why not? We'll call it, earmark that for the next one. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos, and also we have a new special stream that's occurring next Wednesday. James will be hosting that, so there's a 10,000 subscriber special that's happening next Wednesday, February 7th, at the standard time of 7:30 in the evening UK time. So make sure you don't miss out on that, and make sure that you have your notifications on for all of our future live streams and videos. So thank you so much for that. That being said, we shall get into a bit of the news, which is there seems to be a bit of trouble in paradise at the moment. David Ornstein has reported that Liverpool players, the more senior Liverpool players, would have been happier to know about Klopp's departure earlier in the year rather than finding out when everybody else found out, essentially. And they're not exactly happy with the club and how they've gone about it. But Ornstein did go on to mention that Klopp is kind of damned if he does and kind of damned if he doesn't in that. Regardless of when he announced it, he wasn't going to get a good reception for it. But what you can do is just take it as it is, unfortunately. So I'll throw it over to the panel, and please feel free to chime in on the chat as well about it too. But Kev, I haven't spoken to you in God knows how long at this stage.
I know, mate. And you.
Question I'll just throw to you really is, firstly, the players do have a leg to stand on in this. Like they wanted to know a little bit sooner, but then at the other end, Klopp's kind of his hands are tied. It's not the kind of news you want to receive, no matter what time of year it was. Whether it was at the start of the season he said it, midway through it, or if he said it at the end of the season, it was always going to be a gut punch, wasn't it? Really.
Absolutely. It reminds me of when I play Football Manager. I get these statements from the press that get leaked out that my players aren't happy with certain situations. It is what it is. It's down to his decision when he wants to do it, and not down to the players. It's nice to be told in advance, but would that have had a detrimental effect on the actual squad, and would have been a bit of a downer for them? I don't know, but it's down to when Klopp wants to perceive to tell them. Now, initially it was released in November that he said he wanted to go. So around that time, it would have been or should have been mentioned around then if it hadn't already. But I don't know. I think we're going to get a lot of this chaos going on now for the next couple of weeks until something's actually determined. So it's. I'll be honest, it's played into the media's hands, because without this, the transfer window was an absolute farce this year. So this is giving them something to focus on and let the drama pursue, which inevitably started last Friday. And we're going to get countless reports of players not being happy, players wanting to leave, people's statements being taken out of context, players not happy with and going to leave. Nothing's going to happen like that. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's quite happy. It's just people trying to throw more stones at us and trying to get us to, react in a way that they want us to. But to be honest, it's down to when the manager perceives he wants to tell the players, and it's never nice when he will say when it is, but it's down to him, no one else. So it's a bit like me when I play Football Manager. I end up 2 weeks later getting sacked for it, so never mind.
Exactly. Look, it is. It's within Klopp's hands, and he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. But as you mentioned, we've already seen players' words getting twisted, Anthony, realistically, with Virgil van Dijk. His words have been twisted already with what he said, and maybe he was questioning his future. But realistically, when you're a player, like anybody with a brain in their heads would know that a player that's in their 30s, that has won everything that there is to be won, does not want to be part of a rebuilding project, and they would like to know the direction the club is going. That's the same with any business that you're in. Realistically, if you were working for a company and they all of a sudden got took over, you'd like to know, first of all, is my job safe? Do I have to start looking elsewhere? Because he has kids that have grown up there and he needs so much movement out of it. Do you think there's going to be more, as Kev mentioned, is there going to be more snippets of conversations that will be taken out of context that journalists might use for clicks going forward over the next couple of months?
I mean, of course, like the Van Dijk thing, I think our players going to be uncertain about their future. It's kind of common sense. Like we all knew it, obviously. Salah, he's got 1 year left after obviously this season. Salah, Trent, and Van Dijk. I assume Trent's going to sign a long-term contract regardless. Who's in charge, just because he's from Liverpool as well. But obviously they're going to want more certainty. Like who else? Imagine if we bring in like Roy Hodgson again. Then does Van Dijk want to pin himself to a new contract? And you know he's stuck under Roy Hodgson for the next 3 or 4 years. So it's common sense really. We always hear it just because it's a big club, Liverpool, obviously. So they're just going to get their clicks, going to get their views, and that's about it. I'm confident enough in FSG to bring in a good manager, a good replacement in Klopp, for Klopp, I should say. And I hopefully Salah and Van Dijk can sign new contracts as well as Trent.
Yeah, everything's going to be taken out of context. Rent is going to be due, where everybody's going to need them clicks. Jane, I just want to say thank you so much for being a member for 17 months. As always, the love for Kev is there, and I think he nearly had a heart attack earlier when you came on and you seen that it was himself. Thank you so much for that. It is very, very much appreciated. And also as well, I didn't even spot this. Thank you so much. Jesus Christ. The £19.99. Kev, we should have you on more often. It's very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Jen, whatever we didn't spend in the January transfer window will go forward now for the summer window for the next manager to come in and look after. It's very much appreciated, Jen. Thank you so much for that, as always. Hassan, I'll throw the same question over to yourself, which is like, stuff has been taken out of context. Journalists are going to want to get their clicks. Everybody's going to want their pound of flesh, so to speak, out of this story. Similarly to how during the summer we were linked to every midfielder under the sun, no matter who it was, and everybody had their thesaurus out and were changing things left and right for wording. Do you feel that there's any truth behind the players' dissatisfaction, or is it all just blown way out of proportion and they're all kind of locked in now for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I was really pissed when I read all the article and the news coming up, because as you know, nobody knew anything about Klopp leaving. And as soon as it was announced and it was on the official side, uh, the journalists were shocked what happened. So now they are making up stories to seem relevant. And as you saw, as you mentioned earlier, they knew nothing about the midfielders coming up. It's really good that we keep a really tight ship, and it's all the guesswork, as Anthony said, that it's common knowledge, common sense that everybody will be curious. That's what Virgil said. That who's coming in, who's like Anthony mentioned, Roy. It might be not like Roy. It's maybe like Graham Potter or someone like. And players, these are world class players. They will know. They will want a world class replacement. They won't maybe like to play under a experimental manager. So this is all a guesswork, and they will now make up stories so they seem relevant and seem to show that they have some inside knowledge, which we all know they don't have any.
Exactly. Like most of them say, as Ornstein has come out and said many times, Liverpool do an awful lot of their work behind closed doors, and that has proven very true last summer, especially because not a single reporter had a clue about what was going on with us. Haylor mentioned something here that I think we do actually maybe need to send his wife Ula or Uya. I don't know if they pronounce if it's like actually German and they pronounce the L's like Y's, or if it's Ula. For convincing him to stay for another season, because realistically, Kev, if he left us last season, we'd really have been fucked, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. We'd be up a certain creek without a paddle. I think it's inevitable that she's played a vital part in every aspect of Klopp being at this club, for this extension, and then through the, which was relatively through the good times, but even through the bad times, giving him the sense to carry on and continue. And you saw that when we get to the start of the season, we saw a more of a energized Klopp that we hadn't seen for a year or two. You know, lack of the frustration, willing to continue, and has set up a new team, which I don't think a lot of people give credit for him to do. To redo that midfield as quickly and as efficiently as he has, just goes under the radar. And if that would have been anyone else, everyone would have been wax lyrical. But to do what he did with that team this season, and we're seeing like where we are now, but we're reminiscent of that 17, 18, 18, 19 seasons where you've got energy. Every time we go forward, you can see us trying to score goals, and there's a willingness within the squad and enthusiasm that whoever's playing, they're getting the game in it. But I think this team's it's one of his best for the minutes he's given to the players on the bench, and rotation wise, this is probably the best we've seen of any Klopp's time here at the club. And I think we're in a better position to do the quad than with this team. If this would have been 2 years ago, I think this team would have got us over the line. And the amount of players we've got has meant that we're not rushing players back, and you know we're giving players time to get back and bed themselves in. You know, Conor Bradley's now, you know, has made a fight for right back, as has Joe Gomez with Robbo. Without anyone saying, I would always have that for him. It's great to see, and it's in certain circumstances with Klopp that there's been certain points where she's been the concrete block that has kept him in check, and has not let him to go with what he wants to do and what he feels his emotions are, because he looks a very emotional man. That he takes time to reflect on what's happening, and allows him to make the right decision rather than a rash decision, what would have been last season. But yeah, with no question, we would be nowhere near where we are now, and I don't think we would have got half the players we got had he left mid-term last season. I'd like to see who would have took over as well.
Can I add on to Kev, actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to ignore Jamie's comment. It's the Atletico Madrid one when Torres was there, but that's the shirt. But you mentioned a good point, actually. Yeah, like how many people always don't give credit to Klopp for the job he's done. Especially, he's completely changed the midfield. He feels energized because this is life without Jordan Henderson. Everyone, how many times did I bring it up last season? He was rubbish. Season before, rubbish. And this is life without him. It's perfect, right? But joking aside, yeah. Everyone keeps bringing up, since he's leaving Liverpool, he only won one league title, only won one Champions League, as if winning the Champions League is such an easy thing to do. And it completely gets put under the radar, right? Klopp took over a mid-table side. We didn't have any world-class players beside maybe Coutinho, Sturridge, obviously, but he was too injury-prone. And he turned every single player in their position to possibly and arguably the best player in the world to have existed in that position. You got Van Dijk, Robertson, who I think at a time you could say is the best left back in the world. Alisson is one of the best keepers ever. Salah, one of the best forwards ever. One of the best in Premier League history, if not the best. And then midfielders like Thiago, obviously, he signed whilst they're already world class. But we've got brilliant players. He's turned this into such an amazing team. So I don't think he'll ever get the credit he deserves just because he's managing Liverpool. It's the reality. Pep Guardiola, he'll always get the plaudits. Always won 4 or 5 Premier League titles. Anyone, if you put Klopp in Pep Guardiola's position at Man City, he would have won probably 10 times the amount of trophies he's won, if that's possible. But he definitely would have won more than one Champions League in like 7, 8 years. So I don't think Klopp will ever get the credit he deserves. He's done an amazing job.
I completely agree with you. Klopp can do everything Pep has done, but Pep can't do what Klopp has done. That's where my view on it is. That's how I look at it, and that's how I separate the two. And I think Pep is a fraud. It's my opinion on it. I've always thought that. I've always thought he doped as a player and had to leave Spain. He then cheated with Barcelona to win his first treble, and now he's at the helm of a team that has 115 charges. That not only that, was also cooking the books with the youngsters coming over that were 14 and 15 at the time coming into the academy, and the parents of that team, parents of those players could only move for non-football related reasons, and there's been emails leaked about that. Of them saying we've done this before and we've succeeded at this before, so fuck him. I don't like Pep, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's the biggest fraud in football, and anything that he wins, nobody cares about. He lost the Bundesliga with Bayern. How do you lose the Bundesliga with Bayern? That's a one-team league. That's like losing League 1 with fucking PSG. It just boils my piss. Apologies for the language, but I just hate Pep with a passion. A couple of questions have come in, and I'll start firing them around to everybody on the panel that I have here. So the first one, I'll bundle them into two. The first one comes in from Jay Muse, which is Alonso our number one choice? And the second one then is, where do you see us finishing next season? So I'll bundle the two of them into one question. Hassan, I'll come to you first on that, and I'll work my way back. Is Alonso your number one choice, or do you have somebody else in mind? And where do you see us finishing next season, or does that predicate on who we get as a manager?
Yes, Alonso is my number one choice, as he's the hottest property in the world football now. He has all the pedigree, and he is proving himself. As you said, it's a one club league, and he is competing with them really good. And the style he plays is really, really impressive. And the players were like unknown. Now every team is looking on those players which are playing on under him. So it looks like he can improve players. He can manage. He has been to the top of the clubs. He is managed by the top managers. So it will be silly for us to overlook him. And if he goes somewhere else and does well, it will piss us the most, because we want him the most. And the other thing is, as you said, it will depend on how he comes in the preseason, and the players, how he gels up them, and if he brings in some players he wants. It will all depend on him, these all things also depend on how we finish this. If we win the quadruple and all the players are staying, we will surely make the top four.
Yeah, I if it's Alonso, I could see us actually challenging for the league next season, to be perfectly honest with you, given the squad that we have at the moment. The squad that we have at the moment, I feel, with youth players and everything included, could probably challenge for a title next season. That's also based on the fact that Man City are going to be bombed into oblivion in about 7 months' time, which I can't wait for. Anthony, I'll throw the same question to you. Do you have a number one choice? Is Alonso it? And where do you see us finishing next season, dependent on manager, obviously?
I mean, it's dependent on manager, and I think arguably players as well. But whilst I hope Van Dijk and Salah sign contracts, I think Salah's huge, man. Like, I know we've been doing well in this little January, kind of February period as well, but you can't replace 40 plus goals a season just like that. So I think that whoever it is in charge is going to have a huge job, such incredibly high expectations, just because. I don't think they'll ever match what Klopp's done in the space of 7-8 years. But you never know. Maybe it's Xabi Alonso's time to do it. I think he's my number one for now. There's just not many managers out there. I could be wrong in saying that. I don't think there's many that I can imagine. Taking over Liverpool at this point. And I think Xabi Alonso it has to be. He's obviously got the Liverpool connection. He's played for us and knows what it means to be part of Liverpool. So by all means, I'm on the Xabi Alonso train.
Yeah, Kev, Alan mentions here that he feels Alonso has unfinished business with Liverpool. As a player, he broke Alan's heart by leaving as we were on the verge of challenging, so he can come and keep us going. I'm assuming that's how Alan was going to finish that. Is Alonso your number one? Have you looked into it much yourself, or is it?
Do you know what? Right? Do you know what, Steve? Right? You look around, and I think there's a question mark against everyone who's who's in there. Alonso, because he's only had 60 to 70 games as manager, and it's relatively although he's been at Real Madrid with B and a few other places, this is his first actual job, and he's doing a really good job, and he's top of Bundesliga, which it's great at the moment. But if he stays there at the end, then sound. He's a perfect manager for us, but there's elements of question marks against that. De Zerbi, you take away his two best players from last season, Casado and Alantara, and you see how they've faltered this season, and how he's struggling with that team, and he's now questioning the transfer window as well. There's elements of what I like. There's elements of everyone that I actually see. Nangelsmann, I know there's a thing about him, and I get it, but I've always thought, even when he was at Leipzig, I actually, and then before he moved to Munich, I actually thought he was the one who was going to follow in the footsteps of Klopp. Again, another one. Tuchel was another one. I always felt that he always followed where Klopp went. Do you know what I mean? So there's been elements of everyone that. At the minute, Alonso's the favourite, but again, it'll come down. We'll know more when, and I think it's been mentioned in our WhatsApp group. I haven't read anything, but as soon as the director comes in, we'll have a feel of where the club's going. Do you know what I mean? And we'll have an understanding of what direction we are going. Think about it, this is the first time that we get to change the identity, if we need to, of where the club's going. And this is the first time under FSG this is going to be a big question mark over them, because of how well it's gone, and they've had the man that they wanted at the realm. We're now in a position where there's no one at this period of time when we were looking for, when Rodgers left. There was a perfect man out there. We haven't got that. They haven't got that fall guy to look on at the minute, and that luxury, I think. So this is going to be an element of a little bit harder to get right. But I think they need to look at it stylistically, how we our formations, and make sure it's versatile with the man that comes in, and the man needs to have an ethos that he is 100% committed to and behind, and allows, and he embraces that and moves us forward. As for next season, I actually see us finishing possibly first or second next season. I think the squad's going to be good. And the fact is, he'll be backed in the transfer window as well. So he'll get a few of his players. We'll still have Alisson there, who's still the best goalkeeper in the world for me. You look at our right back situation, that's sorted itself out. We just need a left centre back, and possibly a number 6 that we've been crying out for since this season. So hopefully we may get one of them. But again, I think the biggest dilemma will be with Nunez as well. He'll be Marmite with the new man who comes in. Will he like him? Will he not like him? Will he play him as much as what he has done? Will he have confidence in him? Will he want his own man up front? These are questions that are going to be asked. But I think if you're looking at it, this is probably the best team and the best time to get this club. We've got a young, youthful side who are there, who will have won stuff. So you'll have leaders already in that squad. It's perfect for anyone, but there are question marks. There's no true candidate for me at the minute. I think once we get the director in, and we'll be able to say. But what everyone said, I agree with to a degree. But just wait and see. Let's just sit back and watch.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the season is the way that I look at it, because we're technically still on for a quadruple, which no other team is at the moment, because it's good to be a Liverpool fan at this time, and we don't have to worry about it. And David mentions a good comment here. If it is Alonso, do we think that we would keep playing 4 at the back, 3 in midfield and 3 up front, or will we play the way he plays at the moment, which is a 3-5-2-1 or a 3-4-2-1, whatever way he plays? He plays 3 at the back. David, personally, I think we have the squad to be able to play in his formation. You could very easily see a back 3 of Kwanzaa on the left, Virgil in the middle, and Kanate on the right. And then you obviously then have the likes of Joe Gomez backing up then if needs be, which would mean we then would have to go into the market and buy another centre-back, whether it be it left or right, or somebody that can roam in the middle. Inacio will be a good shout for that. Or if Alonso decides to arrive, his stallmate, Hincapi as well will be a good shout. Then when you move into the midfield, obviously you'd have your 4 in the midfield. So we'd have maybe, if you wanted to put it in, we could have. It's strange, you see, because the back is fine, but then the middle and front line is where you'd be a little bit concerned about it. Like, would you have Andy Robertson on the right or on the left, should I say, or would you put Luis Diaz there to be able to trace up and down the left wing? But he'd have to have more defensive duties if he did that. The right-hand side, would it be Bradley? Would it be Trent? Would Trent move more into the middle? What I'm getting at is we have a fantastic problem on our hands where we have too many good players to play in the same position. Bradley and Trent in the same position, which is hilarious to say at this moment, but given Bradley's form at the moment, you can't drop him. But you can't also not play Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, which means, is Trent going to move into the 6 role until Endo comes back? Is McAllister then going to move up? Is he going to? You can't drop him. Is Jones going to get dropped? You can't drop him with his performances. Is Szoboszlai, is he going to play maybe out on the right wing to allow some rest for a Diaz? Is Szoboszlai going to get dropped and have to play a couple of extra minutes and earn his way back? It's a fantastically deep squad, and we have serious problems as to who is going to start. And that is not something I don't think we've had under Klopp for a long, long time, that we've had essentially 2 starting 11s that we could field at any given point, and 2 starting 11s that would do very well in this league. I don't know exactly how we're going to play, David, to answer your question. I think a good manager that we've mentioned previously on other streams, I mentioned it on Monday just gone, a good manager isn't rigid and can move from one formation to another. Klopp started out in a 4-2-3-1 with us and then changed to his 4-3-3. End of last season, moved into the double pivot to allow a 3-2-3-3 and work it that way with a box midfield. It's very, very easily done for a manager to be fluid like that. And as you mentioned, David, why change something that's not broken with the 4-4-3? Kev, something that you mentioned as well with Nunez and maybe the new manager liking him, not liking him. You can't not like him. The kid just works his bollocks off. And there's really nothing that you can fault him on. Yes, he hits the post 12 times in a season, and the next person closest to him is Trent on 3. But the kid in a flop year has 22 goals and assists in all competitions. And that's not including international goals. Include international goals, and the man is on pace for nearly a 60-goal season. 60-goal contribution season, should I say. That's not bad for a flop, in my own opinion.
It definitely isn't. And you look at him, and I think you're starting to see him improve in certain situations now. And you're seeing him holding the ball up and causing more chaos. Now, people say, I don't like this. But if you look at Conor Bradley's goal, had the Chelsea back line not were too enthusiastic with what Nunez was doing and too took up with him, then Bradley doesn't get that opportunity. He takes play. He had about 3 players around him. He's fighting and wrestling, and the ball gets played through to Connor. That's where he's playing well at the minute. He's keeping the ball. He's retaining the ball. He's winning it upfield, and his energy. You can see I'd hate to play against him, but as Robbie Fowler has actually said, and others have said, he needs to calm himself down in certain situations when he does get around the box. Try and bring his heartbeat down. Now, I'm not saying that is the actual be-all and end-all of it, but the amount of chances he gets in a game, it's frightening, because if he starts putting them away the way like a Harry Kane would, Jesus Christ, you've got a player who's scoring 100 goals a season with the opportunities he's creating. He is great, but there will be others who will have question marks around them, who don't see what we see and don't like the fact of what he is and what he's bringing to the team. Hard to believe, but there will be managers that would see him as Marmite. That's what I mean. Even with the fan base is a bit Marmite with him. Some people like the way he is, some people don't. I've seen improvements in especially this season with him. I think he's settled down a little bit more. Last season was a little bit more gung-go. I'm on my own and I need to prove myself. This season, that's been taken away from him. We're behind him. He knows we're behind him. I wouldn't have given the penalty myself. I think I would have given it to McAllister or Szoboszlai myself personally. But that's not my own person. But to have a pair on you to go, well, sound. the main thing for the striker is getting yourself back up and putting yourself in that position, and he does that time and time again. And you can't fault him for that. But at some point, as a striker, well, you need to start taking them more, because if you don't, it's gonna end up being a curse. But the good thing about it is he's backing up with assists, as you've said. You know what I mean? 21 goal actions in this season already. First one in the out of all strikers to do it. So, you know, enjoy what we're seeing, but I am seeing improvements with him, and I think we'll see more of that. I think it's taken a little bit while for him to settle down. He's still only 23, 24. So I think we need to relax. It's not like he's 28, 29 coming to the end of his career, or he's in his peak and he's not hitting anything. He's hitting the marks where you want him to. If he's not striking, you know, at times he's been sacrificing scoring to assist, which again is something that is unselfish to be doing, and it's not really you see with a striker. So he is sacrificing himself for certain situations. I still get frustrated with him though, because there's times where I think he should be shooting instead of passing. But again,
if the result is a goal, though, do you really care?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't. But when it does not result in a goal, then you get frustrated with him, and that's where the element of the Marmite comes in with him. A lot of people like the fact of what he's doing. I'm enjoying it more this season than, and you know, we started to see against Arsenal as well, is that the offsides have started to calm down a bit as well. He's not getting caught offside all the time. He's now hitting the post. It's going to be like a Peter Crouch with him, where he is going to score, and it's going to be about 4 or 5. He's going to score, do you know what I mean? Because as soon as he starts finding his sweet spot, everyone's done for, do you know what I mean? But that's my own personal position on him. It's difficult with Darwin, because a lot of people would, I would prefer him to play on the wing. I think he's more of a wing coming in than playing an out-and-out number 9, mainly because he drops off to the wings. And you saw it against Newcastle, that benefited us more in that game, and he wins us that game from being on that right wing.
It's either side, and I think Charlie mentioned previously that he doesn't think he has the dribbling ability to play a winger, and I'm like, yes, he does. He's dropped people 6 or 7 times this season already, and his pace is absolutely frightening. I said it to Paul on a different stream, Kevin. I'm sure you'll agree with this as well. He reminds me an awful lot, since you're a Packers fan, of Brett Favre, who will throw 6 interceptions, but he'll throw 7 touchdowns, and he'll keep going. He just won't stop. And that's something that you cannot coach into a player, which is why he's so valuable, I feel. And he's a coachable player, which is why I think the next manager, whoever he may be, would love him, because he can mold him, and he has the versatility to play across the front 3 and cause havoc, which is something that you want in a striker. And if a striker can have 3 players on him and open up for your right back to score a goal, what more would you want, realistically? Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to say, is Anthony back? Or is he gone? Look, he's back again. That's okay. Just to say thank you so much, everybody, for subscribing. We've hit the 10,000 subscribers mark. It's very much appreciated. Please make sure that you do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And make sure that you have all of your notifications on for all future streams and videos. We will have a very special stream next Wednesday, the 7th of February. So make sure not to miss out on that and have your notifications on for that one. So make sure that you're around for that one and not miss out. Other than that, though, we do have some injury news and some injury updates that have occurred. As it stands at the moment, everybody's back essentially, but there is one big one that's back, and it's been one that we've been waiting for a long, long time, and that is Thiago Alcantara. He has been back in full training. There was videos released of him today going at full speed, full tilt, and looking as silky as ever. However, the elephant that is in the room is, Hassan, I'll throw it to you. How long do we have him for? Because it could be very likely that all of a sudden he plays 5 minutes and he's gone again. I'm not trying to jinx it. I'm not trying to curse it. I'm not trying to say anything like that. But calling a spade, the man has spent a year on the sideline. We'd hope that everything is all right with him at the moment. Are you happy to see him back, Hassan? Have you watched much of the tape of him in training at the moment? You're on mute, Hassan.
Yeah, okay. Now you can hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was saying that I'm really, really happy. I'm a really big fan of his, and when he came back, I think we have been really, really careful with him. As you know, as we saw last year, he had that injury and he was struggling a bit. So we took his time, and now I think he underwent a surgery, and now he's back in the video training. He looked really sharp. So I think we have take our time, and we'll ease him in. I really hope he stays really fit till the end of the season.
Yeah, it's sorry, I just looked down at the phone and I got news. Apollo Creed is dead. Carl Weathers has passed away. Anybody who's watched The Mandalorian or has watched any of the Rocky films or maybe any of the Predator films or anything like that would know who Carl Weathers is, and that's actually a crying shame. That's upset me a little bit because I actually quite like him as an actor. Anthony, we'll go back on to maybe some more positive news with Thiago being back in training. Are you're obviously very happy to see him back. I see the smile on your face, but I'll pose the same question. Are you a little bit worried with the injury history? Is it just that we have him maybe for a finite amount of time and we might as well use him while we have him?
I'm not worried one bit. This is our season. I think he's running down his contract, but I'm pretty sure it's because he's just having a recurring hip injury. Yeah, but he's had surgery on it now, so hopefully that's done and dusted. But even if he does get injured again, yeah, he was meant to be a luxury player. He's not meant to be starting every single game for us. He cost 20 million. We knew that before we signed him. We knew his injury history before we signed him. Having said that, we've got enough players in the midfield anyway that I'm happy with now. McAllister is unbelievable. You know, every single fan who was writing this guy up beginning of the season. Oh, what? Look, you can tell we only spent 35 million on McAllister. No, he's incredible. He's been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. You got Szoboszlai, who's just come back from injury, scored against Chelsea. Everyone was saying, "Oh, all he does is hair flicks throughout 90 minutes." No, he's been so good. And Endo as well. I have to apologise to Endo because you know what? When we signed him, I was like, "Why the hell are we signing him?" And he's the reason why I thought we still need to sign a DM going into the winter window. But I think he's been incredible since he joined. And now that Thiago's back, then I don't think I genuinely think, hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. I think we've got a perfect squad. I don't think we need to make any signings at the moment. When it comes to the summer, then obviously we do. But
yeah,
mate, Thiago is just on another planet. Him and De Bruyne are in a league of their own. I think De Bruyne obviously he's got the numbers to back it himself up. But Thiago, the way people talk about Enzo Fernandez, that's what Thiago is, and he's 10 times that. He's incredible. Just watch the 21-22 season back, yeah, or watch his highlights from that season against Man United. Oh, you know what? He's getting me too gas. Yeah, I've seen the training clips. Can't stop smiling. Honestly, he's too good. Him, McAllister, Szoboszlai in the middle. But I think we got something to be excited for the rest of the season now.
Yeah, that is true. Kev, he's apparently back for the Burnley game. He's not available for Arsenal, unfortunately, but he is due back for the Burnley game, and that's probably a good game to bring him back for. Would you start him in that game, or would you bring him on from the bench, or how would you deal with his minutes going forward?
You deal with him strategically. You play him when you need to play him. He, as Anthony and as I said, he's a player that you don't play in every game. You bring him on to orchestrate the game if needs be. Okay, especially against any team that are playing low block, ultra low block. You know, I'd definitely be playing against Man United at Old Soil in a few months' time. He's a quality player, and I'll be honest. You look at him in training today. There's not many on his first day back from return hitting the ball as sweet as what he has, sweet as no. We are very lucky to have a player of that quality and that silkiness, who you could just put on in that Burnley game for how many minutes you want to play, and you'd think that he hadn't been out for as long as what he has. That's the level of quality you've got when you have a Thiago on your bench, and you're blessed to have him. You between now and the end of the season, you strategically play him in games that you need him in. You don't play him every week. We're not playing him because we're relying on him to play in a certain position. We now have the luxury that we've been waiting for, where we can play him in games where we need him, and in a in a relatively position where he will feel more confident in playing, and he's not having to do a Fabinho role, or he has to do a, create stuff. Just do your own thing, mate. You're blessed. It's. I am very privileged to have watched every minute he's played at Anfield, and the vision of that guy is just unreal to have around the club, for the likes of Besic going forward, the likes of the young lads, the likes of Trent as well. It's unbelievable what that man can do. Yeah, we all kick off that he's on 200 grand a week, but are you going to be kicking off at the end of the season if we win the quad and he's
Oh no,
played
that's
10
tough.
games?
Winning fixes
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly. So that's the way I look at it, and that's the way we've got to look at it. We have a player who is probably the best player to have on a bench, to come in and orchestrate the game if you need to take the pressure off the game. If you're winning 2-0, you bring them on. You got the creativity, and you got someone who can orchestrate and take the what we needed against Chelsea. I thought when we went 3-0 up, just be able to ease us back into it, slow the game down, do it to the rate that we need to, and not produce the issues that we had against Chelsea where they scored. It's fantastic. I'm so looking forward to seeing Thiago back, and anyone who doesn't think he's worth the wait, then you'll have your opinion, but I don't agree with it.
It's not. I had the opinion of it that not that it wasn't worth the wait, but considering he's been out for a year, there's been setback after setback after setback, 10 million a year on salary. To look a gift, to call a spade, it seemed like up until this point when he comes back, and probably until I see him perform well, and that's just me playing devil's advocate, Kev. I know what you're saying. I'm not questioning the skill whatsoever. On his day, that man is the best midfielder in the Premier League. He's better than Kevin De Bruyne by a mile, and that's my opinion of him as a skill player. But it's when he's available, and availability is the best ability. And that's the way that I look at it. Like, if you have a player that plays one game a season, but plays like the best player in the world, but they still only play one game a season, that's the issue, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, it is. But if you look at his time at Liverpool, though, he hasn't been played in the position that he's needs to. We've actually rushed him back from injury in certain situations to ensure that we had someone of that quality on the pitch because of what he can do. He's been that versatile over the last couple of years that we've actually played them more than what we should have been doing in certain circumstances, and played them in positions where we shouldn't be playing them, and relying on them to do. And that doesn't help when the squad isn't as strong as what it is this season, where your reliability of them is not necessarily needed. It's actually you're looking forward to the fact that you're bringing them back because you're not rushing them back, and it's the kind of thing that we should have done with Virgil as well. Look at Robbo. Robbo has been, we haven't even mentioned Robbo for the last how many months, because we've been playing well without him. And don't get me wrong, when winning takes that away from it, I get that. And the fact that if it was last season, would be this in this situation. But I think the squad's gone up a gear and up a level, even with the players that are coming in, and even the younger players, has given us the opportunity to get Thiago back to the position where he needs to. And he comes on the pitch and is allowed to produce where he needs to be producing, not where we are relying on him to be in that backward line, and we're relying on him to do a Fabinho role, which I don't think he can do. But it's you're losing a bit of what you get from Thiago, and that's where the elements of, if you look at the starting 11s he's played in, there's not many that you can turn around and go, yeah, that was a quality game, or we played them in the right position there. There's times where we haven't done that, and we've rushed him back and got him back to play. And again, he's made out of a quaver. Let's just we've got to remember that. Bring him back in bubble wrap and get him back into the team. But this season, I think it's different. I think you can mark him out, but the worst one's Adrian. I'd like to be the third goalkeeper on 60 grand a week. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean?
I'd love that as well. Are you joking me? The fact that 60 grand a week to sit there scratching your balls, my God. And I have said that a backup keeper is one of the hardest jobs in the world, but the backup keeper is probably one of the easiest jobs in the world, realistically. The way that I hope he comes back and I hope he balls out, because I think he could be the player that could push us towards a quadruple easily. And now that we have the depth, it looks like we've lost Hassan. Hold on, we'll switch around to make sure everybody and Anthony isn't cut in half. But it is. I think he is somebody that could push us over the edge. And as you mentioned, Kev, we have the depth in a midfield now where players are fighting for position and fighting for minutes. It's beautiful to have. And we don't have Anthony's favourite player there anymore, Jordan Henderson, taking up minutes. So it's a very interesting one. But we'll move on to the last two topics that we have, one of them being a player that has really shown out since we have lost Mohamed Salah to AFCON and to injury, unfortunately, but he is hopeful to also be back for about the Burnley game, maybe a little bit after that, which is Diogo Jota, who has been coined the nickname that has been given to him by Curtis Jones, his teammate, as the Ghost, alluding to the fact that he could basically drift around and do nothing for a game and then all of a sudden in a really decisive moment get a goal or an assist. And I think that's a beautiful game. A beautiful game, name, should I say, for him. Anthony, we've talked about it so much, and I think, I'm not sure if it was yourself or somebody else that mentioned it in the chat, but Salah doesn't get grief for it. Maybe he has been a little bit this season, but doing nothing and then all of a sudden showing up and getting a goal or two by the end of the game, and then we all just forget about the fact that he'd done nothing for the game. But either way, you're not. If he scores 2 goals, if he does absolutely nothing for 90 minutes, and then between the 90th minute and the 95th minute scores 2 goals and wins you the game, you don't really care, do you?
I know. I have no. You know what? The discredit this guy gets from some of our fan base before the season began. I was like, I'll be watching the same Jota here, the one who scores like nearly every single match he plays. I know he went on that 30-odd game non-scoring streak, but he was getting subbed on in a lot of those matches. But he's a gunman, the ghost, whatever you want to call him. He's incredible. He's so lethal in front of goal. And the fact he's so versatile, he can play right wing, striker, left wing, and he'll perform the exact same. You're not losing quality, put him in anywhere else on the pitch. And I think his defensive work doesn't get enough credit as well. I think he's the one from the front six. How many have we got now? Probably 6 or 7 forwards. He's just like non-stop running. Same with Nunez, you know. I actually kind of agree with Kev's point earlier, you know, because I think he's hit and miss with me, Nunez. I don't want to go too off topic, but I don't know, man. There's one match where he'll miss 3 sitters like the Luton one year. I'll be like, what's wrong with this guy? We didn't pay 85 million to watch him miss an open goal from like a yard out. Then the next match he's scoring 2 against Newcastle, and you're like, oh, he's the best striker in the world. But we're back to Jota anyway. Yeah, I think he's incredible. I don't think he's someone you can like sell or he's always gonna perform. Like he said, it doesn't matter if he's disappearing for 90 minutes. He's always gonna pop up with a goal or assist of him. He does that every single match for us. So keep it up, Diogo Jota. I think he has the best conversion rate in Liverpool forward history. I might be wrong in saying that, but he's a brilliant player, and I don't think any of our fans should doubt him anymore. I know the injury problems are always going to be there, but we've got enough depth to cover that position anyway. I think Gakpo, he's looked decent again in this sort of later half of the season. So I've got no doubts for Diogo Jota going forward.
Yeah, no, nor do I. Hassan, before we lose you again, before you drop off again, unfortunately, Diogo Jota coining the nickname of the Ghost. As I said to Anthony, and Anthony has mentioned a couple of times as well, you don't care how he performs for 90 minutes if he scores 2 goals in the following 5 minutes and wins you the game or assists a goal. He's always involved in decisive moments, and he's the reason I've captained him in FPL. So I was very happy with his midweek performance this week. Jota as a player is very similar to. He's kind of turned into this season's Origi, where he's come in. Maybe now I use that term very loosely. I mean, has scored important goals when they've been required. Is probably the best way to describe that. Same way as Origi came in with the Barcelona game, scored 2, and then scored the sealing goal, not the winning goal, but the sealing goal in the Champions League final. He's broken Everton hearts more times than we care to count, scoring important goals when they need to be scored at crucial moments of the game, and Jota seems to be able to do that consistently. Do you think the Ghost nickname that he's been coined with has been basically correct? Do you think is it a knock on him, or do you think it's a compliment? I think he's frozen.
He looks frozen on my screen.
He looks like he's seen a ghost, actually. I'll remove him and add him back and see. Anything? Hassan, can you hear us? No, it doesn't seem like it, unfortunately. I'll keep an eye on him. I'll just take him out of the stream. I'll keep an eye on him. If I see him moving again, I'll pull him back in again. Oh, wait. No, is there movement there now? I'll throw him back in if I see movement off him in the lobby or whatever it's called in the studio itself. Kev, I'll throw that question to you. So, is it a knock or is it a compliment? Because, as you said, winning, as we both agreed, really, winning fixes everything. And whether you do nothing for 90 minutes or everything in the first 5 minutes, as long as you win the game and you're involved in the decisive moments of it in a positive way, nobody really cares.
No one does. And I think the element with Jota that you see this season that you didn't see last season is there was a frustration with Jota when he started games because he didn't start well. If we're being truthful, but this season he has been unbelievable against Chelsea. From our last game, he was just all over the place. He was tenacious. He had that energy about him that, you know, he had an element of speed about him, and his link-up play especially on the right-hand side, was great. It was unbelievable, and even when, as Anthony said, it's his defensive side of things that you notice now as well, where you're seeing him where he's losing the ball. He's not getting frustrated because he's lost it. He's getting back and trying to win that ball back, which is something I think he's brought an element of that into his game this season, and he's starting to get the everyone talking about him. I still think he's the best clinical finisher at the club. Out of our front five, I think he's clinically the best out of all of them, especially in within the box. I think he's a bit like a Rush. He knows where the sticks are. He knows they don't move, and he'll always produce. It's great. It's great to have that kind of energy and that versatility in him, that he can play across the front three. And I'll be honest, out of the front five that we have, he was the one who was under the most pressure going into this season. There was more people asking questions about himself, and possibly Diaz as well, that, you know, he's actually stood up and went, you know what? I can sit here and moan about it, or I can show them what I can do. And we're seeing that with the way he's playing. We got to the point at last on Wednesday night where you're thinking, do we play better without Mo Salah? And you get yourself starting to think about that, because I'll be honest, we in this period of time, the drama has been, if we're not winning, well, that's because of Mo's not playing. But you look at the team. I don't agree with that statement, but that's it. That's the element of what's coming into your head in this short period of time, that we can play without Mo Salah, and this team's got the versatility in them to produce. Look how many goals we scored in our last two games. We scored 9 goals in our last 2 games. Now, one being in the FA Cup and one against Chelsea, which we all had down possibly for a 0-0 draw with the way the last 6 or 7 have gone. So to do what we've done and creating the opportunities and taking those chances, that comes down to having players like Jota in your team and that energy up front and that focal point and being able to. He was tenacious. He was willing to get himself hammered all over the place, get knocked, but he was getting back up, and he was winning challenges, winning us a penalty. That's what you want out of you from 5, and then he scores his goal, and you think, wow, great. It needed that, and only he could have done that. You don't see Salah doing it as much. I don't think Salah scores the Jota goal that he scores against Chelsea, but yeah, that's not taking anything away from Salah, because you need that. You need someone else who can do those things that he doesn't want to do or can't be asked doing. Do you know what I mean? If Jota wants to do it, that's fine. But it's great to see that we're not relying on one player up front. You've got to deal with all of us, and if you're dealing with all of us, then you got to deal with the right back who's just come in from the academy, who's just come out of nappies. Do you know what I mean? So that's what you're doing with this squad, and that's where the chess. It's like 60 chess. It's like we know what we're doing. It's a bit like when people think it's easy to play quarterback, making an analogy out of it. But when you look at the elements of the gameplays that you need to look at and how to play in an NFL team, it blows your mind as to what you need to do. And this is what this team's doing. Everyone knows what the job is, and it's more reasonable now to see that happening than what it did last season, because he was playing in an 11 where we were half-heartedly going for, running, and we were trying to play the high press and we couldn't because no one could be bothered, or they didn't have the energy to do it, or the head's quicker than the mind, that kind of thing, than the legs. But that's what you need. That's what you're seeing. And Jota is I think, has stepped up this season. I think he's stepped up at another level, and I think that's because of the challenge that's being put on him, and the fact that there's more pressure on him this season, and he's dealing with it. And if he and like we see with all of them, it's a bit like Curtis Jones. You give these people a role to keep it an element of playing these players constantly. The level of confidence is gained in that. And you see that in the freedom of how they play. And he's seeing that every week in now with Jota. And he's a starter for me on Saturday, on Sunday. So, yeah. Let's hope he signs
him too.
Yeah,
he's going to haunt Arsenal. The ghost will haunt Arsenal. You have my word on it. But I just seen a tweet that came out from Paul Joyce, and I'm going to read it out. Early in 2020, Klopp was given a 4-man shortlist of potential new attacking talent. Timo Werner, who was with RB Leipzig at the time prior to his move to Chelsea, or was he? No, would it have been? No, this would have been after his Chelsea stint. He also had Jonathan David, who was at Ghent, and he had Ismailia Sarr of Watford, and Jota was also in that 4-man quartet, and he chose Jota, and by God, hasn't that paid off? It's beautiful to see. We move on to our last topic, and just as I look at my phone, Ireland are currently 10-0 up against France in the Six Nations. I love to see that. We do love beating the French. It's not a World Cup win, but look, we'll take a Six Nations Grand Slam. That's the way that I look at it. The last topic that I want to quickly run into is Chelsea are up the shit. What we all thought was going to happen has come to pass. Spreading your contracts out over 8 years and 9 years and what have you has really not helped them in any way, shape, or form, because 14 of their first team players, and now they have a squad of less than 30, so nearly half, if not over half, of their current squad has contracts that go into the next decade. I let that sink in. They have 6 years left on their contracts for 14 different players on that squad. Those would be the likes of Romeo Lavia. Those would be the likes of Moises Caicedo. They would be the likes of other certain players, maybe Levi Colwill as well. But realistically, Chelsea need to basically fund £100 million worth of income to allow themselves to get out of FFP breaches by the end of June. And that would require selling people for pure profit, which would come in the form of the likes of Colwill being sold, other youth players being sold, the striker that they loaned out, Broja, I think is his name, how you pronounce it. He'd have to be sold as well. But due to the fact that everybody kind of knows that Chelsea is in the shit and needs money, everybody can strong arm them. So the question that I'll really quickly pose to everybody before we finish up, Jamie is, yes, it is. It's on the 7th, next Wednesday. James will be hosting it. We have a special sort of a get together on that for the 10,000 subscribers one. So make sure you're around for that. You're always around for every one of them, so I'm sure you'll be around for that one too. But Hassan, I'll pose the question to yourself first of all. Is there anybody from Chelsea at the moment that you would like us to pursue in the summer? If an opportunity came, like maybe go back in for Colwill, would you take Conor Gallagher? Or is there somebody else on that squad that you'd look at? Silence again, unfortunately.
Doesn't like your question, this thing.
He really doesn't. Normally me and Hassan are fine, but I don't know, maybe I pissed him off or something. Hassan, unfortunately, I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you, unfortunately. And you've kind of frozen again. I'll just pull you out and I'll go back to the other brand and we'll see. Anthony, I'll throw the question over to you. So, is there anybody on the Chelsea squad, Colwill, Gallagher, anybody at all that you'd be interested in? Would you even go back in for Lavia or anybody along that? But see, they wouldn't sell Lavia or Caicedo because they'd make a massive loss in them. So there's really not much of a point, is there?
I think personally, all the clubs in the world should come to an agreement that we don't sign any Chelsea players, and they just have to suffer personally. I think they deserve it. You know what? After their little stunt on Romeo Lavia, they had no reason to sign him. And and their Caicedo little stunt as well. I think they deserve everything that's coming to them. They're cheated. They know their fans turn into the financial experts. The amortization, you just don't understand Todd Bowley.
Yeah.
Like what?
He's found a loophole. We're spreading it over.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's all good to spread contracts over 8 years, but not when you have 1 million of them.
Exactly. Seriously, in terms of quality, I'll probably take Enzo Fernandez, but it's never going to happen. It'll probably end up at, I don't know, some La Liga side maybe. Aside from him, I'm not interested in Colwell. I think Colwell's a decent player, but I think we've got enough centre backs. I want to say he can play that same position, and perhaps if Xabi Alonso comes in, then Hincapié will be a better option. So none that I really want. Maybe Caicedo at the time, but not after he rejected us. And same with Lavia.
Yeah, I completely agree. Hassan, do you have? Oh, he's gone frozen again. Kev, I'll go to you and see if he opens, if he comes back. Anybody on that Chelsea squad that you take at a discount purely from the shit that they're in at the moment?
The only one that comes to mind would be Nkunku for me. I think the quality of player that Nkunku is, I'd love to see him at Liverpool. You saw that when he came on the other night. The runs he was making, if he was found with any of those runs just before they scored, that 10-minute period, he was quality, and you could see the frustration because he wasn't getting found. He would be the only one who I'd have, but I'm in total agreement, Anthony. I think the other 19 clubs and everyone else in UEFA should all get together, have a secret WhatsApp group, set it up with all the sporting directors, and let's shaft them. Chelsea is the name of the WhatsApp group, and all in agreement not to think
I give them 5 million for Colwell if they take it, if they were that desperate.
Well, yeah, you give them unrealistic amounts. You just turn around and go, right, well, I'll give you 1 million for Cole Palmer. I'll give you, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And you can go. This is what Bowley does, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? With I'll find a loophole and I'll pursue it as much as I can, but doesn't look at the hindsight of what's going to happen and the bigger picture when it comes to biting on his backside. And you can see that this transfer window in the fact that only 90 odd million was only spent because people are fearing what's happening at the end of this season, and point deductions. You've seen what's happening.
It's great not to have to worry about that as a Liverpool.
Oh, it's fantastic. You know what I mean? And it's great that we can. We've been in a nice house where we can throw those bricks over to the likes of Chelsea and the 115 charge City team as well. So hopefully eventually these things will come out in fruition. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest though, you look at that Chelsea squad, and if you give them an opportunity and let them play, they are quality players. Believe it or not, they are. If you give them half a chance and they start playing against you, then it's hard to stop them. But if you're asking me who I'd take it, it'll only be one, and that'll be Nkunku. But you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's where do you fit him in Liverpool at the minute, and I don't think you could. But if you're asking me of that team, he's the only one for me that you'd buy. But
yeah,
it's not like Chelsea from years ago where you go, oh yeah, well I'd have him, I'd have Makelele, I'd have, you know what I mean. There's not that many of them that you'd look at. Murdoch because of his running, his energy, but.
He's just Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So there's loads of them in the team, but for me, I'm in total agreement. Let's set that WhatsApp group up and do them over.
Just
you know what though, I genuinely don't see the quality there. I see certain players who have individual quality, but I just don't see it. But I'm trying to not be biased. It's the same with Man United. I think they've got certain players got good individual quality, but when as a team, I didn't fear Chelsea one bit. That when we were going to play them, even at Stamford Bridge, I know we drew, but I think that was more so to do with the fact we had gap by midfield and we had a complete new midfield revamp. Their fans went on as if they've just won the World Cup. They drew 1-1 at home to a new Liverpool side, and this is off the back of us finishing outside of Champions League, I should say. So I agree with Nkunku, actually. I forgot about him, to be honest, but
because he hasn't played.
Yeah, another injury prone one. But
He's a
generally,
Thiago.
that's the worst way to have spent 1 billion in it. 230 million or
Well, yeah.
220 million on Casado and Enzo, who I think are good players, but
But
that is ridiculous.
if you like, they're complaining about, oh, this is like corrupting his profit and sustainability, and why haven't we signed anybody in the transfer window and this and that. Maybe if you didn't spend £253 million in the space of 8 months on Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo, all who play essentially the same position, you wouldn't be in this fucking mess. That's £250 million on 3 players. We spent less than what they spent on Romeo Lavia and Caicedo on all 4 of our midfielders. And I know we do say that we'd like the FSG to be more ambitious, but I prefer good business over ambition any day of the week. That's the way that I look at it.
No, it is, and that's the way you should do. But I think the problem with I think Anthony hits it on the nail on the head, is that they are a team of individuals.
Yeah.
But you give those individuals time and space on the ball and allow them time to grow into a game, then that's when you'll see them conceive becoming more of a team, doing their individual things. But if you don't allow them to play like we didn't, and yet on top of them, then those individual talents are alone and standing alone, like a bit like the mascot in the middle of the, you know what I mean? That just shows that basically sums up the club in all its entirety. But if you give this team time to play the game, they'll eventually start showing what they can do. I know it was against Luton at their place, but to beat them the way they did, and Cole Palmer looked a threat, and I thought he would have been a bigger threat against us on Wednesday night, but he wasn't. But that's the problem you've got if you're buying it. That's basically buying a team with no identity. You're just buying players like it's a football manager, and because the other teams wanting to buy them, so we'll buy and we'll get them because they want them. But they're not actually suited to a style of play. And then you're trying to get a manager to come in and get them to all play as one. It won't happen. Do you know what I mean? So, it's and that's the problem they've got at the minute. There's an identity crisis and too many individuals on big bucks that hopefully they'll get thrown out the club for. But hopefully a day till next day.
Yeah.
It is. Do you know what I mean? It could be.
It is him. It is him realistically, because he took the sort of friend approach at PSG and not a single player respected him for it. And now he's kind of taken the hard ass approach with the Chelsea squad, and people are seeing through it as well. Along with that, he's never really been able to develop a team. He's needed ready-made stars there in front of him to be able to succeed. Whereas the likes of a Klopp or the likes of a De Zerbi or somebody like that can develop players. I'm using the 2 of them off the top of my head. Alonso as well is another one that obviously develops players. I think a lot of it falls on Poch, and he was quoted as saying that, look, it's a long-term development thing. We need to look to the future and everything. Look, we're going to have bad results. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, you won't be here in 6 months to look at them long-term results if you keep going the way you're going, but sure, pop off. And then as well, this is something that I actually wanted to chat about as well. We'll jump on it for like 5 minutes, but the West Ham sporting director has been, now maybe it might not be him, but West Ham and Leon have been caught up in a little bit of a debacle over a player that West Ham apparently didn't file the papers in time, and it was a computing error, and it looked very clumsy, as if, oh no, we posted the document a minute late, sorry, you can't have them, kind of a way is what the general consensus online is. And if he's the guy that's in line to be Liverpool sporting director, doesn't exactly throw a good light over him, Anthony, realistically.
I think you should ask Kev the question, because I have no opinion about this guy. I don't know who he is.
He's the same guy that brought in Alonso to Leverkusen, along with a number of their players like Frimpong, Wirtz. He's the Edwards 2.0.
And he brought De Bruyne somewhere,
to Wolfsburg,
Okay.
No, you got the right guy.
The players, but like, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, I feel like most sporting directors can say that they've picked up this guy. Like even Michael Edwards can, but if you talk about the Michael Edwards signings before Klopp joined, like very questionable. Alberto Moreno, at least all these guys. But you know what? I can't have an opinion on sport directors. I don't know too much about them to form a negative or positive opinion.
Kev, do you think it's maybe muddied the water a little bit, or is it something that's much to do about nothing and maybe just blown out of proportion?
It is a bit of that. I think there's an element. I think it's been mentioned in the chat that people just want Liverpool to fall badly on the backside and next season with Klopp going. So anything that muddies the waters in certain parts of that process, then it gives you that. But at the end of the day, I agree with that. Name me a sporting director that is actually, you know what I mean, who hasn't done
that doesn't
this.
have their hands dirty in some point.
Well,
or
yeah,
another.
you only have to look at De Gea 30 minutes away from us, you know what I mean, who didn't get the facts through to Real Madrid in time for him to go, oh, there's a surprise, do you know what I mean? Every club does it. Every club does it. We can't sit here and say we don't. You know what I mean? We're the ones who've nearly done ourselves over with Van Dijk by meeting him in Blackpool. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and then we have to bring out a statement saying we don't want to go near them. It happens. Sometimes people just get things wrong in the haste of what's going on, just to prove I can bring these players in. Doesn't do nothing for me. You know what I mean? If you have to look at his whole track. As that happened at every club. You know what I mean? If it's one out of like 50, 1,500 transfers he's been a part of, then it's nothing. But if it's a continual thing, then that's where it is. That's when it does bear its head, and you think, okay, yeah, it is a problem. We'll move on. But if it's just one, you know what I mean? It's not like it's Harry Redknapp at Portsmouth, is it? Do you know what I mean? Bloody hell.
That's the best way to look at it. Guys, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us this evening. It has been absolutely fantastic. We've reached our 10,000 subscribers. Jen, member for 17 months. It's absolutely fantastic. And your £19.99. Again, absolutely fantastic, and we appreciate it so much. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and keep pushing us forward as a channel. We would love every single one of you so much. Thank you so much. And also make sure you have your notifications on for all future videos and streams. And also the stream that we have next Wednesday is going to be a very special stream for our 10,000 subscribers. Anthony, were you going to say something there? I think you had your hand up or something. What's up?
I wasn't going to say anything, no.
Oh, you had your hand up like as if you were looking to say something. Sorry. Wanting to get the last word in before we finish up. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world, and we will see you again tomorrow for our pre-game stream for the Arsenal game on Sunday, and Richie will be hosting that tomorrow. So thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.